If you're confused about ball position, should the ball be back? Should it be forward? Should it be middle? Which club should be forward? Which club should be back? Why should I change ball position for a draw or a fade? Why should I change ball position for different heights of the shot? If you're a little bit confused on that, I would like to clear that up for you today in today's video. I want to give you some practical knowledge on exactly where to put the ball depending on what type of club you're hitting and depending on what type of shot you're hitting. At the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of ball position and why you should put it in certain places in your stance. Let's dive into the video. Before we dive too far into the video, I do want to offer you my Pure Strike Masterclass. This masterclass is going to teach you how to release the club. It's going to tell you the 3 positions your club face should be in the backswing so that you can be more consistent through the strike zone. And if you struggle with a slice, this really helps with a slice. And then I'm going to show you how to correct impact errors. This is completely free. I love what I do and I want to give this to you for free. So if you're interested in that after this video, if you want to take what you learned today to the next level, that link is in the description below. Let's get back into the video. Ball position doesn't have to be complicated. I'm going to make this real simple. First, we're going to start with a short iron. A short iron, we're going to say, to keep things simple, is anything between your most lofted club, your 60, and we're going to say your 9 iron. And those clubs we're going to put in the middle, maybe even slightly back, but what does that mean? So let me show you. Right here I have my 54 degree and I'm going to show you how to get this in the correct position. But first, let me show you about the stance width for this type of club. To help you see this, I'm going to set a white alignment rod on the ground so you can kind of see how wide my feet are. A 54 degree wedge, the inside of your feet should be just inside your shoulders. We don't want to get too wide because we're not going to have a lot of balance with these shorter golf clubs, and we're typically not making quite as big a swing. So if you get too wide of a stance, you might end up overswinging with a wedge. So we're going to get the inside of our feet about the inside of our shoulders right here, okay? And then we want the ball right in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set another club right in the middle of my feet. I'm going to point it right at that golf ball. And now I have a little tee here. I can see ball position. So I want it dead center, maybe slightly back. When I say slightly, it means not right in the middle, slightly back. Another way of looking at this is to look at it in golf balls. So if I take this golf ball and I put it right next to it, I typically want my wedges a ball to half a ball back from center. So if this ball is center, then half a ball would be half this golf ball. So I'm going to put this about half a ball back, and that's going to actually give me the position for my short irons. That's about what I use for all my short irons, from 60 all the way to 9 iron. And after 9 irons, when the ball position changes, it starts moving more forward. More about that here in a little bit. But if you look at it in golf balls and just think, okay, just a little bit more back from original, especially if you master putting the ball in the middle of your stance, because that's where I'd say I'd start first, is master putting the ball in the middle by having a stick and getting that reference point of going, okay, that ball is dead center in my stance. And then you'll know, okay, here's what half a ball looks like, here's what a whole ball looks like, etc., etc., etc. Now, if I switch to an 8 iron, or in this case, let me switch to a 7 iron, I typically have that ball dead center. Sometimes, depending on the shot, a half a ball. Now, we'll talk about specific shots later. I would put my 7 iron dead center, and after my 7 iron, I start moving it more forward. Now, listen, some of this is personal preference. You don't have to get it just like me. There's some tour players that do it differently. There's probably other guys on YouTube that have a more strategic system, but to keep things simple, we're going to do our most lofted wedge to a 9 iron, middle to slightly back. I prefer slightly back, half a ball back. And then from my 8 iron and up, I like to put it middle to half a ball forward. So then if I move this golf ball on the other side, or honestly, I can just put this 3 golf balls side by side. The middle ball is the middle of my stance. And now I can see what half a golf ball would look like if I wanted to put it slightly forward. Now, when I jump into my longer irons, like my 4 iron, I have it about a ball to a ball and a half. So now I'm going to come more on this side. This is my original ball. So a ball to ball and a half. So now that puts it right here in my stance. Now, if I said a ball and a half, I would be putting my club about right here in my stance. Now the reason for that is, as the clubs get longer, they have less loft. Because it has less loft, you need some help getting in the air. So by putting it more forward in your stance, that allows you to get the ball higher in the air. It even gives you more time to square up the club face. Now let's talk about driver. On the driver, I usually play at about 2 to 2.5 balls from the middle of my stance. Now, the amount of balls also depends on the width of your stance. So now when we get to a driver, we want the inside of our feet the width of our shoulders. So now I'm going to take the inside of my feet and get them the width of my shoulders. So now I have a nice wide stable base. If you get it wider than your shoulders, you may have it hard to transfer energy. If you can't stand up dead straight from your driver position, your stance is too wide. So here I can stand up straight, but if my feet's way out here, I can't get up here. I almost have to drag my foot to get back to this position. You won't do that in your swing. You'll end up hanging back. All right, so 2 balls. If I put this club in the dead center, it's about 2 to 2.5. So that means my driver would be about right here, which that would put the ball on the inside of my left heel. Now, some people move that ball around a little bit more further back, some a little more forward. This isn't an exact science. It's depending on you as a player, but I wanted to give you a generalized blueprint on how ball position works and where the ball should go. Now I want to talk about my favorite concept for understanding ball position and stance width. This is more pertaining towards stance width, but it has a little bit to do with ball position as well. I'm going to grab my pitching wedge for this. If you're trying to understand, okay, how wide should my stance be? Here's a concept to understand. The longer the swing, the wider the stance. The longer the backswing you're going to take, the wider the stance. The shorter the backswing, the more narrow the stance. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm going to make a full swing, I want to have as wide of a stance as I need for that club. So it's also club dependent, right? You're going to have a max for that club, a max stance width for that specific club. But then, depending on the length of the swing, is how wide the stance is going to be. So if I'm making a full swing, I'm going to maximize the width of my stance for that club. But then if I want to make a 3/4 swing or a half swing with that club, even though my stance stock is here, I should be narrowing that stance. When your stance is more narrow, it forces you to have a shorter swing. It actually helps you shorten your swing so that you don't overswing. I see too many of my clients when they're trying to make shorter swings, they keep the same width in their stance and they wonder why they struggle making half swings, shorter swings, or knocking off yardages when they're trying to hit, let's say a 7-iron normally goes 175 and they need to carry it 170 or 167. They have a hard time pulling it off correctly that way. That's because they keep the same exact stance, which then promotes the same exact backswing and they don't make any changes. So the longer the swing, the wider the stance. The shorter the swing, the more narrow the stance. Also, the longer the club, the wider the stance. So going from a 60-degree to a 4-iron, your stance should get wider. The shorter the club, the more narrow the stance. So my 4-iron stance should not be the same as my 60-degree stance. I should have a more narrow stance. It gives you more stability and allows you to be more compact when you have a more narrow stance. It actually even allows you to transfer energy from your left to your right or from your trail to your lead side when you have a more narrow stance. Now, if your stance is too narrow on your long irons or your driver, you're going to hurt your ability to create power. Make sure you have a wide enough stance to create power, but not so wide you can't transfer your energy from your trail to your lead side. Remember that the longer the swing, the wider the stance. The shorter the swing, the more narrow your stance. Same goes for the longer the club, the wider your stance. The shorter the club, the narrower your stance. Go to the range this weekend and work on those different stance widths and different ball positions. I hope this video gave you some general understanding of ball position and stance width so that you can have something to work on this weekend. Remember, take advantage of my Pure Strike Masterclass. The link is in the description below. It's really going to help your golf game. I hope this video was helpful. See you next time. Peace.